Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Waller here. Running into a few technical difficulties. I hope that everything works out okay. All right. It's Friday, so you know what that means. It is Quantum Reality Friday. We're going to visit a sector of the quantum world to talk about how we can create, manifest, and create this predictable outcome in our lives, despite all the unpredictable things that take place. I always get excited about this because of the vastness of the possibilities when you understand how God designed this universe to literally respond to you. And what most people don't get is they think that life is happening to them when the truth is life is basically the universe responding to them. You are getting what you expect, what you manifest, what you produce based on the beliefs that you hold and the paradigms that are set. And so we have to learn how to engage the world from a place of power instead of from the place and positioning of a victim. Uh, it doesn't matter what hand you dealt. It's what you choose to do after the hand is dealt that will determine the outcome. The hand doesn't determine the outcome. The hand determines the first few steps that are played based on how you decide to play it. And then from that, you are going to experience life at a different level. But it all begins with your faith. It all begins with what you believe at a level that pushes you into action. Faith isn't something you believe arbitrarily. Faith isn't something you believe intellectually. Faith is something that is the totality of what you believe at a level so deep that it moves you into actions and into an expectation of things that cannot be proven or guaranteed by physical evidence. And there's a way to achieve that. As a matter of fact, there are universal laws that guarantee it, but we don't operate from that. We operate highly from what we perceive to be in front of us. We allow our conditions to dictate our expectations. Most of us identify with our conditions more than we identify with our destiny. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Princess. Good morning, Lee. Look, before I get started, if you have not gotten book number 20, Critical Mass, which is the first book in a 6-book series, it's my 20th book overall, but it's the first book in a 6-book series on personal development. If you haven't gotten it, you need to get it. Also, if you haven't pre-ordered, I Am is the second book, the 21st book of our second book in the 6-book series, and it deals with self-talk, self-proclamation, self-declaration, how you are speaking things into your existence without ever even knowing it, but by not monitoring your self-talk. It has been said that your brain is the most powerful supercomputer on this planet, and your self-talk is the program that it's running. And so you have to understand the power of speech, and that's what I Am is about power, the power of declarations and how we manage that. If you haven't pre-ordered, get it. The beautiful thing about this that I'm actually really loving in this process is that those who pre-order the book get the book at a discounted price, and also get a free 30-minute session with yours truly, 30-minute breakthrough session. These breakthrough sessions are unbelievable. I'm enjoying what I'm doing with these people that are coming on and going through these 30-minute breakthrough sessions, understanding. Okay, let's get off into quantum reality. And the first thing that you have to understand in quantum physics is simply that it is simply a measurable way of discovering, activating, and implementing the process of faith, as most people discover the concept within some form of religion, but very few ever truly execute it at any consistent level over the course of their lives because they see it as being mystic or magical. I'm going to say something and it's going to happen. That's not, God is not capricious, meaning that he isolates, vacillates, he changes. The Bible is very clearly in stating that God is immutable. meaning that he does not change. So that the universe is designed by an unchangeable God that creates these universal laws, meaning they're unchangeable. And basically, we function in these laws. The universe is designed to respond to us. And the thing is, it's responding to your faith. And then people say, well, what are you talking about? I say everybody has faith. And because of religion, we tend to see faith as a positive thing only. No, faith is what you believe at a level that impacts your behavior, that impacts your decisions, that impacts your confidence. And in any way, negatively or positively, you're operating in faith. Some people have the faith that they're going to rise out of anything they go through, no matter how dark, no matter what. Other people have faith that no matter what comes along, they're just going to get their butt kicked. And based on that faith, what have I told you over and over again? God meets us at the level of our expectations. You cannot read one story about anybody encountering God and God says, you know what, all you believe is this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. No, God meets you at the level of your expectations. You know, one of my favorite stories is the story of the Israelites in the book of Numbers. And they've been told that, hey, man, you're at the Jordan right now. That land that your forefathers were talking about years ago is right there. It's right on the other side. All you got to do is cross over. But God says there are people occupying it now. You got to possess it, meaning you're going to have to go in and take it. You're going to have to kick them off your land. And so they sent over 12 spies. The 12 spies go over. They all come back and say one thing they agree on. All 12 agree on the fact that it's everything that they've all heard about. Everything that was promised by God, it's over there. It's a land flowing in milk and honey. It's beautiful. Everything we need to really settle in and become prosperous people, it's over there. 10 said, but there are giants over there. And we're like grasshoppers in their sight. There's no way we can take it. Now, that ain't what God said, but that's what I'm determining and assessing based on my own personal observation. See, now I want to take time to break that down. Based on my own personal observation, I say we can't take it because I'm observing what? The condition, the facts, the circumstances. But what is faith? Faith is the substance of things what? Unseen, the evidence of the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of those things we can't see. So it's not even faith when I'm sitting up and I'm trying to figure out and determine whether or not I can take it based on the evidence. No, I can take it because God said I could take it, and that's all. But 2, Joshua and Caleb said we can take it. Now what happened is the masses went with the 10. They say we can't do it, we're not doing it. They started grumbling. And the beauty of this is what did God, I'm talking about being met at the level of your expectation. And then what does God say to Moses in this story? God says, I have heard their complaints against me. Now, nobody complained directly against God, but the very fact that they said they couldn't do it was a complaint. It was a complaint that God isn't who he says he is and that he can't do what he says he can do and that he won't hold you down like he promised he would. And so you're out there on your own and you're not going to get it done. That's a complaint. Indirectly, you're sitting up and you're saying he can't and he won't. Totally, basically impugning his word. He's not a God of his word. So, okay, now we're dealing with a problem with faith. And this is what God told me. I've heard the complaints that they have made against me. Go back and tell them this. As they have spoken in my hearing, so shall I do to them. I'm going to meet them at the level of their expectations, not higher. And you can take that and you can break that down any way you want to. You can sit up and put it in any form, vernacular, or way. You can remove whatever you want and break it down to its most simplest and common denominator. And the bottom line is you get out of life what you expect, not more. What you expect, you naturally and subconsciously move toward. God designed the universe to literally meet you at the level of your expectations. That's how faith works. Faith says, I can do this. Faith says, there's no evidence that I can do it, but I believe I can do it because if God allowed me to see it in my mind, that's evidence by God, from God, that it's possible. That's all I need to know. I don't need anybody to validate it. I don't need anybody to sit up and speak up on it. I don't need anybody to sit down and analyze it. I don't need the metrics. I don't need the statistics. All I need to know is that inside of my mind, I've conceived it. And because I don't have a relationship with a God that is torturous, that is malevolent, that will sit up and allow me to perceive something and desire something that I can never have. I know the very fact that I can perceive it, conceive it in my mind is evidence from God that it's possible. That's all I need to know. I don't know how I'm gonna get there yet, but I know I'm going to get there. And then you begin to move, and then providence begins to move with you. That's how the universe operates. See, a lot of people are waiting on the evidence. A lot of people are not starting stuff because they are waiting on somebody or something to tell them how they're going to get it done. The thing is, here's the thing, most people don't ever think about. When you're sitting up and you're coming up with an idea about something that you're about to get done, something that you want to get done in your life, and you're sitting up and you're thinking about doing something you've never done before. Here's the thing, you aren't going to know how to do it. Why? Because you've never done it before. What you've got to look at, is this something that God has placed in me? Is this something that I've perceived and conceived in my mind? Is it something that's going to bless someone more than just me? Am I going to be able to touch lives, change lives, help people, empower people? Am I going to be able to serve the purpose for which I was created in this? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to impact and change the world for the better, then it can't be withheld from you. And if you perceived it and conceived it, it's possible, and you got to move toward it. But you're not going to know because you've never done it. Here's the thing. Providence is weird. Providence is weird. Providence is this thing that is what you need in order to do what it is you want to do. But most people look for providence on the other side of the decision. But providence does not show up until the decision has been made and the commitment has been made, and you have started moving towards something that you don't even know how you're going to get to, but you're trusting the process. See, God, again, meets you at the level of your expectations, and then God, through the movement of all matter in the universe, starts to form and conspire with you. That's the beauty of faith. Faith says, this is what I demand of the world. The universe says, this is what you have to align with. You align with it, and providence begins to move. And even people who get in front of you try to stop you. Even things that try to break you down and destroy you can't destroy you. Why? Because you're walking in divine providence, and there's nothing more powerful when you come to walking out your purpose. Most people are looking for the facts. The circumstances, the conditions, and the facts don't have to line up with your faith. Faith transcends facts. I tell people all the time. There are things that when I looked at it, it said absolutely not. There are things that I looked at that says, this will take you out. There are things that I've looked at that said, hey. And yet I trusted a process that says, if I'm moving towards something that will make me a better representation of the Almighty, if I'm looking for something that will inspire people, if I'm looking for something that will encourage people, there is something in that purpose and destiny that transcends anything. One of the best explanations and definitions of destiny that I've ever heard was real simple. Heard it in a movie, as a matter of fact. It simply said that, the guy said, do you know the meaning of destiny? And it was actually a Denzel Washington movie, Deja Vu. Denzel said what? He says, the more you try to stop it, you only ensure that it happens. That's destiny. Destiny means it's destined to happen, meaning that nobody or no one that's in front of it can stop it. No matter how hard you try to stop it, you only become a part of it. And that's the beauty of it. When you know your purpose, it comes with a destiny. And the destiny says, and the destiny is always great. God never created anything for the purpose of mediocrity. So for people to sit up and saying, but what about me? You know, I can understand that so-and-so did this, and I can understand that so-and-so did that, and I can understand that, but you know, this is just little old me. No, there's no such thing as little old me. God designed everything. God designed has a purpose of greatness, a purpose of phenomenal accomplishment. I believe it's the book of Isaiah. I could be wrong. It says you should do great exploits. You should do great exploits. You're going to accomplish great things. And over again, you see this as the theme. But what happens is you buy into mediocrity being your lot in life. You buy into and understand. And I love the way that this is designed. So let's look at it from a quantum measurable idea. We know that now that everybody's thoughts have physicality. We know that. We can measure your thoughts in hertz, and your thoughts have a frequency that can range anywhere from 0 to 700 and above in hertz. And the higher the measurement of those frequencies, the more powerful and positive you are in producing your future realities. We know that. We know that the highest levels of thoughts come from enlightenment. In other words, when you're discovering things you haven't encountered yet, when you are learning more about yourself, learning more about God, learning more about the world, learning more about your purpose, that's 700 hertz and higher. It's higher than love. The ability to grow into what you were designed to be is the most powerful form of energy you can experience. Then you have joy, peace, love, and all that. And love is where you want to balance out at. You want to try to remain at 500 hertz, with what is where love. And I'm not talking about romanticism. I'm talking about benevolence. I'm talking about, first of all, feeling self-love, knowing that's something special about you, loving you. Because see, you can't truly and effectively love anyone else if you don't love yourself, because to love, you have to have yourself in the right place. And see, self-love is a feeling of love. You actually are being loved by yourself. You're taking care of yourself. You are empowering yourself. You are preparing yourself. You are putting yourself in a position to do great exploits, right? You're not waiting on God to do all the work. You're not waiting on someone else to discover you. You're not waiting on anyone to come along and realize how good you are at something and say, I'm going to show you the way to do it. You've made up in your mind that I was designed for greatness. I was designed to make a difference. I was designed to be emphatically perceived, and I'm going to do that. I'm not going to wait on it. See, I believe it was George Bernard Shaw that says, those who get on in this world wake up in the morning and they find the opportunities they need to do what they do. And if the opportunity does not exist, they create it. And that is what God designed you to do. God designed you to call things that are not as though they were, to establish it first in the mind and then manifest it in a way that it evolves into the third dimension. All of this stuff is measurable now. It used to be esoteric to talk about it because nobody understood it. But now we know that your thoughts have physicality, that your body is constantly emitting energy. Your mind is emitting energy. We also know now that all matter in the universe is energy. Everything is created from atomic matter. Everything is made of atoms. Now, the density of the atom, the speed of the protons, neutrons, and electrons determine whether it's liquid, whether it's solid, whether it's gold, whatever it is all in the inner workings of this atom, which we once thought was the smallest piece of matter on the planet. Now we know that's an entire world inside of the atom. And this is where it gets real beautiful. There's not one atom in which you can't find the mind of God. Now that sounds crazy, and to some people it's going to sound blasphemous. But listen to me for a second. We are taught early on that God is what? Omnipresent. That God is omniscient. Omnipresent means everywhere. Omniscient means all-knowing. We're taught this at an early age. We get that. And if you're like me, you had a question. Okay, if God is sitting in heaven, God's got one set of eyes. Basically, he looks like man, because that's how we were taught. But now the Bible also says God is spirit. Now it gets interesting, because spirit is energy. But what we know now, matter converts to energy, and energy converts to consciousness. I don't have a time to go through how you can actually see this, but when they were breaking down the atom, I'm going to really shorten this up for you. When they were breaking down the atom, they were trying to study it, and they realized that it responded to them trying to study and measure it. They found out they could only measure one element at a time. If they were measuring speed, they couldn't measure distance, they couldn't measure location. When they tried to measure location, they couldn't measure speed and distance. And so they tried. Then when they really started to pay attention, they realized that when they were preparing to measure it, it knew. And it would begin to form and change and mutate and do things. And so it knew it was being measured. It was about to be measured. Then they paid even close attention to it, and they realized when even they were thinking about measuring it, it knew. It was consciousness. It was consciousness, and it was responding. And so then they came up with ideas, and they started to study. And then there was another guy who decided he was going to test this theory of entanglement, which is another part of this. So he took cells from inside of a person's mouth, put them in a test tube, attached electrodes to it for a lie detector test, took it 7 miles away, attached the lie detector test to the actual subject. show the subject something that sparked an interest in him. He was a pilot in World War II. And so they put up the film of air sorties, missions being flown, and obviously it sparked. And just as the lie detector on the subject was reading in one location, 7 miles away, the cells taken from the person was also reading the same thing and giving the same results. They did it all the way up to 1,000 miles, got the same results. So it's not just in the body. The body is simply a, if you're talking from a religious perspective, it's a temple. It's a house. It's simply where the spirit and the soul resides, but there's a bigger world. And you can't experience it if you're looking at everything from a physical perspective. You got to understand that at the level of its height, God is available. And what I find is, I start trying to break it down and understand it. Bring the two together because they belong together. There's nothing that is produced that produces power and force and positivity that doesn't belong together. We try to separate science and faith, and they're not meant to be separated. And so what I started looking for, I said, okay, how can I do this? How can I reach both people? People who are going to only want to see faith, people who are only going to see evidence, and then the people in between. And so I'm going through the worst time of my life, 2012. Get into